After all the drama, after everything she did, the king still said he had forgiven Rita. He said, "She's too beautiful to punish. I can handle her." He gave her a beautiful house, not just any house, a fine new building, close to the palace. People whispered, "Is it because of Indomie that one girl will now live like a queen?" But nobody could challenge the king. Rita moved in quietly. She never smiled. She never greeted anybody. But every night, people saw strange red light coming from her window. Nobody asked questions. They were afraid. At first, it started small. Mosquitoes became too many. Goats began to die. Then the children started falling sick. Then the adults, too. Fever, vomiting, rashes. One man even said worms came out of his nose while sleeping. The villagers were panicking. Nobody knew what was wrong. But guess what? Rita was the only one who was perfectly fine. In fact, she looked fresher. Her skin was glowing. Her eyes were shining like fire. One day, the king did not come out of his palace. By evening, people gathered outside. "Our king is sick. He can't talk. He can't eat. He is burning with fever." The chief priest came and said, "This is not ordinary sickness. A price must be paid, and it must come from the woman you gave that house." The elders rushed to Rita. "Rita," they shouted, "the king is dying. The people are dying. The spirit said the only solution is, you must marry the king." There was silence. Then Rita burst out laughing. Her voice echoed like thunder. She looked them in the eye and said, "Marry who? That small boy? I'm older than him, far older than all of you. He is not man enough for me. I won't marry him." The elders were shocked. "Rita, you're refusing the king?" She hissed and walked back into her house, slamming the door. That same night, thunder struck the palace gate. The chief priest cried, "This village is in trouble. That girl is not who you think she is. She is older than time, and we have made a mistake." The king was dying. His eyes had turned red. His voice was fading. All the palace priests gathered. They did rituals. They poured oil. They prayed, but nothing worked. The chief priest stood up suddenly and shouted, "Enough! This is not sickness. This is a curse that was planted many years ago, when this same palace burned an innocent man alive." Everyone was confused. "What are you saying, great priest?" He looked at the elders and said, "That man, the one you all lied against, the one you said tried to harm the queen, you killed him here. His blood cried from the ground. Now his daughter has returned. She must sleep with the king and bear a child, so that royalty can pass back to her bloodline. If she refuses, this kingdom will fall." The next morning, they rushed to her house. She was sitting outside, calmly eating pawpaw. "Rita, please, the king is dying. Sleep with him just once. Let him give you a child. The spirit said your child will be the next king." Rita dropped her spoon slowly and smiled. She looked up and said, "You people are still talking like I am a small girl. I've said it before and I will say it again. I am not young. I only look young because the priest of the ancient river made me this way. I am older than your king. Stop asking me to do what is not possible." As soon as Rita finished talking, the ground began to shake. Dust rose. The palace roof cracked. People ran. The priest ran out of the shrine, shouting, "She has rejected destiny. The blood you spilled is now demanding revenge." The sky turned black at noon. Thunder roared. A voice whispered in the wind, "You burned the innocent. Now your kingdom will taste the fire." The sky was still dark. The land was still sick. The king was weak on his bed. He called his 5 most trusted men, powerful warriors, loyal friends. He said to them, "I've begged her. I've cried. I've done everything. If Rita refuses to sleep with me, this kingdom will be wiped out. Find a way, any way. Drug her, trick her, tie her. She must sleep with me before the full moon. The men bowed and left. The next day, one of them went to Rita's house, smiling. He brought her fresh palm wine and a basket of fruit. Rita, take this. You deserve it. The king loves you. Rita collected the basket, smiled. Then she opened the palm wine, sniffed it once, and poured everything on the ground. Go and tell your king, she said, that I didn't come to this world yesterday. The man froze. Rita, what do you mean? She laughed quietly. Do you think I don't know what's inside that drink? You want to drug me so the king can do what he likes? You people still don't understand. You are playing with fire. The man ran back, sweating. The others tried their own tricks. Some brought perfumes. Some brought new clothes. She refused all. One by one, they returned to the king with shame on their faces. Your Majesty, Rita is too wise. She sees through everything. We can't even get close to her. The king shouted in anger. Then what do I do? The sickness is killing me. My kingdom is dying. The priest came in slowly. You wanted to force her instead of humbling yourself. Now, prepare for the wrath. At midnight, a cry rose from the king's chamber. He was rolling on the floor, shouting Rita's name. But something had entered his body. His tongue twisted. His eyes rolled back. He began to speak in a voice that wasn't his own. I was innocent. I was a good man. Why did you burn me? It was not the king speaking. It was Rita's father speaking through him. The king was crying. He rolled on the floor, holding his chest, begging, Please, leave my body, please. But the voice of Rita's father inside him just laughed. Then suddenly, silence. The room went quiet. The king sat up slowly. His body was shaking. He looked at his guards and opened his mouth to speak, but this time, it was not his voice. It was deep, slow, and full of pain. I was killed without justice. I was burnt like a criminal, but I was innocent. The guards froze in fear. Then the voice continued, I want my bloodline to continue, so tonight, sleep with my daughter. If you succeed, you will live again, but if you fail, you will die before daybreak. The voice stopped. The king blinked twice and returned to his senses. He grabbed his robe and shouted, No, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. He looked at his guards and said, Call the strongest men. Inject her if you have to. Tie her. Hold her. Do it tonight. I must sleep with her before daybreak. The guards ran out. They gathered rope. They loaded a strange injection. They covered their faces. That night, 5 guards moved through the bush path. They didn't use the main road. They were going to Rita's house. The moon was red. The wind was cold. Owls were crying on the trees. But just as they got close to her compound, they saw a woman standing in the middle of the road. She was dressed in white. Her face was covered with a black veil. She raised her hand and said, Go back. If you pass here, none of you will return alive. They looked at each other. One of them whispered, Who is that? But before anyone could answer, the woman disappeared into the air. They were afraid, but they remembered what the king said. If I don't sleep with her tonight, I will die. So they kept moving. They jumped the fence, entered her compound. One of them lifted his hand to knock, but before he could touch the door opened by itself. That night, the guards rushed Rita. 5 of them grabbed her with force. Before she could scream, they injected her with a powerful substance. Her eyes turned. She collapsed. She slept like someone that had no life inside her. They sent a message to the palace. The king didn't wait. He jumped out of his sick bed, entered a private horse cart, covered his face with black cloth. He didn't want the villagers to see him. That night, the king slept with Rita, and immediately after, he stood up from the bed. His sickness disappeared. His body became strong. His voice came back. He laughed. Yes, I'm whole again. The priest was right. He left her room and returned to the palace. The next morning, Rita opened her eyes. She looked around her room, confused. She felt pain in her body. When she checked herself, she screamed, "What is this? What have you done to me?" She cried like a baby. "Why would you do this to me? I told you all. I don't know a man. I left this village as a child. I came back as a woman, still pure. Why did you force me?" The king heard her cries. He rushed down with gifts and gold. He knelt down before her. "Rita, please forgive me. I did it because I was dying, but now I'm well. I want to marry you. You are untouched. You are brand new. You are special." But Rita looked at him and shook her head slowly. "Marry you? You're just a boy. They gave birth to you in my presence. You were still wearing palm kernel on your neck when I left this village. Do you even know how old I am?" The king stood up slowly, shocked. The guards standing by the door were shaking. They whispered to each other, "How old is she? Why does she speak like this?" One brave guard asked, "Rita, how old are you? Really?" She turned to him, eyes full of fire. "The priest made me young, but I am not young. I am older than you all." The king was still obsessed with Rita. He sent food to her house every morning. He sent royal dancers to sing for her every evening. But Rita refused to see him. She stayed inside, always quiet. Nobody heard her laugh again. Then one day, the palace nurse rushed to the king's court. She knelt down and said, "Your Majesty, I bring good news. Rita is pregnant." The king stood up in shock. "What? Are you serious? Are you sure?" She nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. I tested her 3 times. She is carrying a child. The heir to the throne is on the way." The king shouted in joy. He ran around the palace like a child. "Finally, my heir is coming. This kingdom is saved." But in Rita's house, she sat quietly in her room. She was not smiling. She placed her hand on her belly and whispered, "Pregnant? How can this be?" She looked up at the ceiling and said, "I passed menopause many years ago. My body is old. This is not possible." She began to cry. "What kind of child am I carrying? What did you put inside me that night?" That night, the village priest visited her. He looked at her and nodded slowly. "You carry something powerful, Rita, a soul that has never been born before." She looked at him in fear. "What do you mean?" He answered, "The child in your womb is not just a child. He is your father, coming back through you." Rita jumped up. "My father? How is that possible?" The priest said, "He was burnt unjustly in the palace. He must be born again through royal blood." That night, the king made it possible. She collapsed in tears. "So I'm carrying my own father inside my body?" That night, Rita was lying on her bed. She couldn't sleep. Her body was heavy. Her heart was tired. Suddenly, the wind entered her room. The fire in her lantern went off. Then she heard a voice, "Rita." She opened her eyes in fear. Standing by her window was her father's spirit. He wore the same wrapper they burnt him with, but his face was calm. He looked into her eyes and said, "My daughter, it is time. Marry the king. Let the child be born in the palace." Rita shook her head. "Papa, I can't. He's a small boy. I saw him crawling when I was still a girl." Her father smiled softly. "He is the doorway. The child must enter through him. Let the royal blood and our blood mix. That child is me. Give me life again." Then he vanished. The fire came back on. Rita sat up. Tears ran down her cheeks. She held her stomach and whispered, "My father, I will obey you." The next morning, she sent a message to the palace. "Tell the king I accept. I will marry him." When the king heard the news, he jumped from his throne. "Prepare the drums, wake the dancers, call the goldsmith." He ran to her house. He knelt down, shaking. "Rita, thank you. I will love you. I will honor you. You have saved my life and this kingdom." Rita didn't smile. She only nodded. Slowly. "Let's just do what must be done." 3 days later, the whole village gathered. They dressed Rita in the finest wrapper, gold, coral beads, and white feathers. The king wore a royal crown with 2 eagle heads. The drummers played loud. The villagers danced. But Rita's eyes were still calm. She was not excited. The priests joined their hands and said, "From this day, you are king and queen, and from your union, a new fire shall be born." After 7 months, Rita gave birth to a son. The child looked exactly like her father, the man who was burnt alive in the palace many years ago. The king held the baby close. Tears filled his eyes. "My first male child. He is the future of this kingdom. I will love him with all my heart." He turned to Rita and said, "You have brought us hope. I love you, and I love our son." From that day, Rita, the king, and their son lived in harmony. The king cared for them deeply. The village celebrated the new royal family. Their love brought peace to the kingdom. The palace was peaceful, but not everyone was happy. The king's first wife, the woman he married many years ago, was burning with jealousy. She watched how the king adored Rita. She saw how he kissed the little boy every morning, and in her heart, envy grew like fire. One night, she sat alone in her chamber, grinding bitter leaf. She whispered to herself, "This old woman, Rita, she just came from nowhere and took everything. The king, the throne, even the air. I must make that boy vanish. I will deal with them both." She laughed wickedly. That same night, Rita was lying in her room, breastfeeding her baby. Suddenly, she paused. She looked around. Then she smiled. "Hmm," she whispered. "Someone is playing with fire." She stood up, tied her wrapper, and looked out the window. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please click on that subscribe button now. Turn on the notifications, so whenever I post more interesting stories, you'll be the first to get them. I really appreciate you. I do not take your support for granted. See you in my next video. Bye.